And I wanted to go ahead and do this video. Energy feels mad weird. I started taking more initiative, and probably to my chagrin, since I'm dealing with something that's, kind of internal. I felt her get into my energy body, nearly remove me from out my consciousness, remove entity attachments connecting me to it, try to remove bear insanity and all of that from my bloodline and all of that. Make a long story short, I tried to take initiative and use magic to remove her. And I was getting her for a minute, from what I understand. I woke up in the middle of the night to hear her through my soul consciousness, this Maria Tavares of Paraffin. By the way, them people are open today at 8704 Broadway Street by 87 in Broadway, out there in Los Angeles, 90003. They by 87th Street. It's called San Archangel Miguel, Botanica. And they opened it there today, not that far from Figueroa. Make a long story short, to her sounding like a demon, pretty much threatening me, saying, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to fuck you up. By the way, I did this painting of Pazuzu last night, but I don't like the idea, plus I was wearing this with my MAGA cap yesterday. And, interestingly, got a lot of compliments. I'm surprised a lot of people didn't. Don't look right, but it's pretty accurate. You look like fucking Jeepers Creepers. You ain't what you think he is. He ain't a bad person. He actually really, really cool. Anyways, to make a long story short, her saying, how dare you try to move me out of your body like I'm some type of slave or something, and how dare you try to get your shit and internally within your body back. The fucking, I couldn't express in that video I made yesterday. I plan on doing a longer video, hopefully. My consciousness is all fucked up because of her. Like I say, she tried to remove my father, bear insanity, entity attachments. But, everything, connected me, protected my consciousness, including, the Egyptian pantheon, Anubis. I found out that my father related to Isis, I believe. And all of them who've been very, very helpful. I don't like talking about them motherfuckers every single day. I want to go back to talking about what I used to, but it's hard. Anyways, with that being said, I didn't say it in yesterday's video. Very evil, malevolent motherfucker. Basically, she sold, astral body harvested me, stripping me a lot of, my internal shit to give to the person that's occupying my body. Her code name was Rosie. Really, I think Ashley Terrell or Renee Wellinger in that August the 21st, the 22nd, 2022 timeline. That video that I posted yesterday, in the evening, is pretty much what I'm facing, what I'm dealing with. That occurred, while I was staying at the Manor on Pico Boulevard, which is a homeless shelter. Very nice homeless shelter that got a pool and everything. I didn't want to do anything back then because, I wanted to, go topless and shit like I did on the PCH. I was still You know, even my timelines were still connecting me today. I don't have that anymore. Still connected, my heart, mind was still out there. So, with that being said, not that long after, the soul swap happened. And, after a while, I got disconnected from that timeline. And, initially the timelines began on the PCH, but for the person that took my body, again, it's an Ashley Terrell, my dad told me. He said that he died on April, I think August the 20th or, 2023 in that timeline. I remember having a dream with Jan Aykroyd, as a matter of fact. He owns Crystal Vodka. He's a follower of Baron Samedi. And you're a follower of Baron Samedi. I just heard somebody say, cut that thing off so something don't sound right. He a follower of Baron Samedi. And I remember, my brothers, Kristen, Brian, and them, Carrie, Brian's already officially dead. My parents talking, and oftentimes that's a sign that they ain't in their bodies. And that's something they write. And like I expressed on the blog and in that video, in the comment section, some ain't right. Some hasn't been right with my reality for quite some time. And then it got worse on May the 1st, 2024 with them fucking wetbacks over there that keep trying to pull me into Santa Monica's realm. And I even did a blog talking about the problems with her existence. She had told her thought form. Like in the case with this Maria Paraffin, the Tabarez, I believe her Archangel Michael's name is Raul Vargas III. The problem with them is that they could, their higher to higher selves, act as her instead of them being their own autonomous being. Like for instance, when Baron Samedi was, covering, when he was over me, still is, that he was my higher to higher self at one point because he actually physically existed. Like Yemaya, Oshun, Ishu, which I don't like, leg-wise, because I don't like how they came about. Like Baron Samedi was explaining, they didn't have much of a choice. Alu Damari and all of that, the pantheon of the Santerio Rishas, really it comes from Ifa in African Palo Mayombe. With that being said, the problem with her is that, and I feel sorry for Mexicans because she can just come into their motherfucking soul consciousness, which she rules in the astral plane. They rule in the astral plane. It's pretty fucked up for them as well by Zenu and Satan. And they control and rule the hell realms, which are realms of chaos. And ain't, it just is what it is. That's why they call black magic. Whenever somebody fucks with our school Isha demons and all of that. There's a lot I want to talk about, the iniquities that go on in the spirit plane with how a lot of these, so-called gods and demons who are powerful and all of that come to be. It's pretty fucked up. With that being said, that's why they call it chaos magic. Because it's meant to, go anywhere about it. This rain just appeared out of nowhere. It's very similar to the film Hellraiser. Where in the film Hellraiser, they talk about I found freedom with, being fucking caught on fucking strings and shit, because I guess at that point you just don't give a fuck. They got a lot of, shit I've seen in the spirit plane that just, some of them ain't giving up. It's like that motherfucker that took over my body in that timeline and who took my parents out, from what I understand, got placed. My dad in that timeline got placed in the roach realm and had his eyes taken out. That's why his eyes look bulging here. And I was told that this entity I took a picture of back in 2016. It's funny too, because I had a vision while I was in my old apartment of seeing neon lights and all of that, and an eerie black glow come from the kitchen area, and feeling that if I was walking, I would never walk out. That connoted to what's going on. I was told that Satan, who was one of the entities, along with that bald-headed Paul Edwards entity or Alex Nascimento entity that pulled me out of my body, he blocked me from seeing what was going to happen, because if I did, I would have seen my parents in there, I would have jumped in to rescue them, and I never would have walked out. So this shit is real. Here's the picture. Now I got this wetback Maria Tavares to fucking contend with, and I'm not in the mood to deal with it. You know, I was trying to use my spiritual powers and abilities like somebody echoed on here to do. And so anyways, in the obstacle position, you got the devil. And I feel like you took a risk. You felt like you made the right choice, but kind of like what I'm feeling right now with that bitch controlling a lot of my consciousness and shit. I'm trying to keep it from getting to the point of mind control. I wonder what frequency removes that. You know, MK Ultra shit. Yeah, somebody that's afflicted with MK Ultra, they ought to put that shit on that motherfucker. With that being said, the devil. I don't like how this evil ass wetback bitch is all in my fucking body and shit like this, eating it up, tearing it up. I can't say anything or anything, you know, without her acting on it and attacking. I got a pretty good spiritual system inwardly, you know, to kind of block that. Anyways, with that being said, try to play something or do something to get this bitch out. But anyways, I feel her controlling and saying shit and trying to say I got to get her out. I think I almost got my highest self back, but you know, trying to get the Egyptian Pantheon and get this wetback bitch back. Again, they open today. The phone number, I think, is 323-778-7748. So the devil, you're being blocked by something that's extremely, okay, you felt like you made the right choice, but you're being blocked by something that's extremely hellish and evil. And I see you breaking free ultimately. The Chariot, that's your current position. And I see you moving. Do some work right now. Get this bitch out. All right. I see you breaking free of something. And I see you going in the right direction. In the Chariot. I see you coming across a lot of obstacles and breaking free. Something monumental to you. Queen of Swords, I see you taking initiative and I see you defeating something. Five of Swords in your subconscious. You felt like you won, but I think that it's a bittersweet victory. I don't think it's real. Gold, Ten of Swords. Pretty much defeat something as an objective. The Hermit, advice card. Work alone. Stay to yourself. You're better off. Nine of Pentacles. Energy that surrounds you. You got motherfuckers feeding off of you, pilfering off you, and so forth and so on. Defeat that shit. Eight of Swords. Fears in your hopes card. You fear shit won't go in the right direction, and you feel fear defeat. Outcome, Ten of Pentacles. You're going to get help. You're going to get help. A lot of help. I feel it's ancestral. With that being said, if you want a more personalized tarot reading, please contact me at ravenbytarot22@yahoo.com. Peace.